2 Corinthians chapter 8. A collection for the saints in Judea. 2 Corinthians chapter 8 has a primary focus on the theme of generosity, giving, and the example of Jesus as a model for believers. Verses 1 to 7. Grace of giving, and the example of the Macedonian churches. In these verses, Paul is commending the churches of Macedonia for their extraordinary generosity, despite their own poverty and trials. He highlights their willingness to give beyond their means to support the needs of fellow believers. Paul encourages the Corinthians to also excel in the grace of giving, just as they excel in other areas of their faith. Verses 8 to 9. Christ's example of sacrificial giving. Paul points to the ultimate example of giving is Jesus Christ. He emphasizes that even though Jesus was rich in his divine nature, he willingly became poor through putting on flesh and his sacrifice of dying for the sake of sinners. The purpose of Christ's poverty was to enrich believers spiritually. Verses 10 to 12. Completion of their giving and willingness of their heart. Paul advises the Corinthians to follow through with their desire to give, emphasizing the importance of a willing heart. He notes that God values the intention and willingness to give, regardless of the amount. The focus is on sincerity and eagerness to contribute, rather than on the quantity of the gift. Verses 13 to 15. Equality in giving. Paul emphasizes a sense of equality in giving. He suggests that the Corinthians' abundance can supply the lack of others, and vice versa. He quotes a proverb, "He who gathered much had nothing left over, and he who gathered little had no lack," to illustrate the principle of sharing and mutual support. Verses 16 to 24. The proof of love. Paul expresses gratitude for Titus and the support he is bringing to the Corinthians. He also mentions the presence of another trusted brother, who will accompany Titus. These individuals are representatives of Paul and the churches, entrusted with the responsibility of delivering the collected gifts. Paul urges the Corinthians to demonstrate their love and commitment by welcoming these messengers and providing evidence of their generosity. Overall summary. 2 Corinthians chapter 8 addresses the concept of generous giving, drawing from the example of the Macedonian churches and the sacrificial giving of Christ. Paul encourages the Corinthians to excel in this grace of giving, emphasizing the sincerity of heart and the principle of equality in sharing. The chapter also highlights the practical arrangements for collecting and delivering the gifts, with a focus on demonstrating love and commitment through actions.